A very good afternoon to you and welcome to your daytime update. If you've just joined us, our preparations for King Goodwill Zwelithini Zulu's internment are continuing in Nongoma. Mourners continue to arrive to pay their final respects. The remains of the Zulu King are expected to be interred at midnight tonight. Our reporter Mbali Thethani is there following the story for us, and she joins us live. Mbali, a very good afternoon to you. If you could give us an update as to the events that have been transpiring throughout the course of today.
Well, Tammy, the situation is relatively calm today as compared to what we have seen over the past couple of days. But today, Tammy, we know that is a very important day for the royal household. Of course, we are expecting the remains of King Zwelithini to make its way here this afternoon. And we do know that, Tammy, it also will be, there will be this convoy that will be leaving the mortuary here in Nongoma. And I'm just going to step out of shot for a second just to show you the bit of activity in which we are seeing here this afternoon. We have seen a number of amaButho, Tammy. Of course, these are the King's warriors, and you would know that they've spent a lot of time with the King over the past couple of years, you know, and they are those ones who always protect the King, Tammy. We have also heard from the provincial government just talking about the logistics for the next, or for rather today and tomorrow. We do know that President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver a eulogy tomorrow, but today is a much more important day, Tammy. We know that the remains of the King will be planted today, and that is expected to happen at midnight. We have been told, Tammy, that this ceremony is going to be a private ceremony that will only be attended by a family. So basically what we continue to see this afternoon, Tammy, is just mourners continue to make their way here, but we have not really spotted a number of high-profile people who have come here. The only person so far we have managed to see, Tammy, is of course Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize, and he has made his way here today, of course, just to oversee some of the issues which are expected to take place today. And of course, this also being a very big program, Tammy. We know that this was a funeral that was, it is a state funeral which is expected to take place when the King is officially laid to rest, Tammy. It is a special category 1 funeral, which we have heard from the President. But we know because this funeral or the planting of the King, Tammy, is expected to be a private affair only handled by a family, we now know that it will rather be a memorial service which is expected to start tomorrow morning at around 10 o'clock. So we know that even when we see the laying or the planting of the King, which is expected to happen much later on at midnight tonight, Tammy, it will be a ceremony conducted by the family and those select few who have been chosen, Tammy. At the same time, we know that there are a number of people who have been stationed at the Nongoma mortuary, which is in the city center, Tammy. So we are expecting that convoy to move much later on, where we know that the body will be transported from the mortuary, and it is expected to then be transported in that convoy, and it is expected to make its way to this royal palace. And of course, we are expecting the King's warriors to conduct some sort of a guard of honor, just to honor and pay tribute, Tammy, to the passing of the King.
If you could once again, Mbali, just recount who exactly will be allowed to attend the ceremony that is going to be taking place tonight.
Yes, we would like to encourage everyone out there.
Well, Tammy, this is a ceremony that won't be open to the public, and this is something that Prince Buthelezi has put much emphasis on. We know that it will only be a select few people from the royal household who will be allowed to take part in that funeral proceeding. And of course, like we have said, that it is called the planting of the king, because they believe when one king dies, another one rises. So that's the terminology that they continue to use, Tammy, at the same time. So we know that it is expected to take place at midnight. We are expecting it to be a private ceremony. And of course, Tammy, at the same time, this will then be followed tomorrow morning by a funeral. There have been concerns because we find ourselves in the times of COVID-19, Tammy, and of course, we know that only 100 people will be allowed inside those funeral proceedings, or rather the memorial, which will be held by government, Tammy. And of course, we know that President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering that eulogy. We also heard yesterday during a press briefing to the media, Tammy, where Buthelezi was saying that, they need to adhere to the COVID-19 regulations. And of course, the king's funeral cannot be used as an excuse to have a large gathering, especially during a time of COVID-19. I'm just going to bring in the Health Minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Minister, you have come here once more. You were here on Sunday with an ANC delegation. Today you have come once more to come and pay your respects to the family. If you can just tell us, how is the family feeling right now?
Well, I think all of us do understand that the family is really very sad, and they have all been shocked by the departure of His Majesty, and we do wish to convey our condolences to the entire family, royal household, the entire people in the province who have been under the leadership of our king. However, you can actually see that the family is very welcoming to all the people who have come to pay their respects. They also need to be comforted, and so the royal house is also expressing their own sympathies with the people who have lost their king. However, they're very conscious of the need to keep the numbers low, to avoid having too many people coming into the royal household. So they have restricted numbers of people who go inside the houses. They have put the chairs with quite a lot of distancing. I went into one marquee, and one of the princes stood up and said, "Don't touch the chairs." They have actually been put on a specific distance so that it must save your life. So just sit on the chair and not touch it, because if you move them, you're going to interfere with the distancing. So the level of consciousness on the COVID-19 is very high. They are using sanitizers. Every house you go into and you get out of, you will see the sanitizers. People are walking in, and no one inside here has got no mask. So we've also assisted from government to supply the mask, and we really want to thank the provincial government for all the work and assistance. There are also police and health workers in the outside here who are trying to deal with the situation from the point of view of telling those who are coming in. The difficulty is that all the people who are coming in, they come from different places. They don't know each other. They don't know each other, and they just find themselves all crowded up in a place without ever preparing for it. So the team here has to try and keep the distancing. If it was a usual time without COVID rules, the thousands of people who would be here, there would be no place to walk. Inside the palace, there would have been thousands of people, and they would be all over, because that's how it would have been. Unfortunately now, because of the COVID rules, everyone has to stay at home, and we really want to appeal to everyone to say, may they respect the COVID regulations, may they try and as much as possible to grieve from the privacy of their own homes. We know that it's very sad. We know everyone does not feel that they'll have a closure unless they've been here. We know, I'm sure at some point this time will come when everyone will come together to really express their feelings as the situation would have been. We know that this is unusual in terms of our traditions. Nevertheless, we have to save more lives. We have to save lives of anyone who comes here. We shouldn't have a super spreader activity here. So we continue to appeal for people to keep distancing and use masks and sanitizers, because that's the only way we can deal with it. I do understand that the team is going to have it tough to try and separate people, especially amaButho, because they don't know how to be together without really being very close to one another. But nevertheless, we really want to appeal that assistance needs to be given so that we have to respect the regulations.
Minister, the King holds a very special place in the hearts of many people, especially here in the Zulu nation. There are some who say COVID or no COVID, they will be here. What do you have to say to those comments?
You know, in the vernacular language, there is an expression that says, in other words, when people grieve, they can express very painful words which are an indication of how badly they feel. So some of this I've seen. Some people have said, so what if we die, because we are here for our King. I think we must understand that the depth of the pain and the grief that people are going through. People in this part of the world aren't really about defying regulations and laws. They really respect the regulations and the announcements that have been made. But of course, in the heat of expressing their pain, they are saying they are prepared to do anything to actually pay respect to their King. But we have had lots of discussion, and the messages have been sent out. Even those who are commanding the amaButho have been spoken to. In the process, they've actually understood. We have given them masks to say any of the amaButho without a mask must be given a mask, they must keep the distance. They will try their best. So I think that even if people have said so, they must understand that it's really more an expression of the pain they are going through, that are prepared to do anything. You know, if you go historical in the olden days, people will say, I'll prepare to die for my King, so what is COVID and so on. But that's not because people are really wanting to defy. We have spoken to those who are in charge, and everyone does understand. It's just that they can see it's going to be a very difficult task to contain the numbers and the distances, but we say they must continue to try.
Thank you very much. Of course, that is Minister Zweli Mkhize there, just warning those who will be in attendance here, saying that they need to adhere to the COVID-19 regulations. And of course, we've heard from a number of people who'd want to come and pay their respects, and they've been asked that they should not make their way to the palace. Only 100 people will be allowed tomorrow at that memorial service that will be held by government. And at the same time, saying that even the amaButho, the King's warriors, needs to respect the COVID-19 regulations. And as you've heard there, he has inspected the palace where some of those who come and mourn the King's death, they have come and pay their respects. There has been sanitizers to ensure the safety of all of those who have come here today.
Mbali Thethani will continue keeping abreast of all the developments as you are KwaNongoma this afternoon, the planting of the King happening at midnight tonight.